A lot of people who watch this movie wish they hadn't seen it. It's provocative, weird, confusing, and extremely hard to understand. But trust me, some things are better left not understood. Okay? Maybe I exaggerated a little, but that's fine. The 1966 movie Persona delivers a transformative message that can spark an existential crisis, as it did for its two protagonists. First, you need to understand it, but seriously, how hard is it to grasp anything from this movie? Just to get the vibe? It begins with a film projector flashing and showing random, sometimes nonsensical images. And I know there's always someone annoying who shows up to say that actually, this isn't random. Actually, director Ingmar Bergman was referencing something, but I don't know what it symbolizes. But then I asked this person, can you explain to me the meaning of that Damarek eggplant that appears for a millisecond? Oh man, I adore you. Yes, if you're wondering, I kept trying to pause to see if it was really what I thought I saw. See, of course I paused it. I wanted to fully understand this movie and catch every detail without missing anything. And even after doing that, the movie ended and I still barely understood a damn thing. I was intrigued. And that's why, right after I finished watching, I tried to understand what was going on in the mind of the creator of all this. I put on an old interview with him where he talked about the movie. And while watching that interview, the message of the film suddenly clicked in my head. But hold on, for this powerful existential message to make sense, I first need to tell you a bit about this story. The movie centers on Alma and Elizabeth. Alma is the one with short hair, a young nurse without much experience, a girl who seems sweet and loving, who is assigned to care for a newly arrived hospital patient. This is Elizabeth, and Elizabeth's problem is really strange. She is an actress who, for unknown reasons, stopped speaking. She was acting in a play when suddenly she froze in the middle of the stage. Everyone thought she had just forgotten her line, but then months went by and not even a breath came out of her mouth. But despite that, the tests show that everything is fine with her. Because of this, the doctor feels there's no reason to keep her in the hospital, but also can't just send her home and ignore the situation. The doctor offers to lend her beach house so Elizabeth can stay there with Nurse Alma. There go the two crazy women to the beach house. Isolated, things seem to go more smoothly. There, Elizabeth still doesn't say a word, but the two of them seem to live a lighter and more fun life there. But this harmony doesn't last long. As time goes by, things get weirder and weirder between the two of them. Elizabeth's vow of silence starts to really get to Alma. The silence makes the nurse feel welcomed, feel like she's being listened to without judgment.
What do you want? Bjorn, are you listening to me? You're listening?
She keeps talking nonstop, and she reveals herself more and more. Then you understand why the movie is called Persona. It's nothing more than the personality we present to others as if it were real. In other words, it's our social mask. And what we see happening little by little here is Ruindo's persona crumbling in the face of Elizabeth's silence, the fragile image she built. The once accepted coherent conversations are being taken down one by one.
I think this is a very meaningful line to tell her.
Her talk about being faithful to her husband is among the first things she abandons. She drops it quickly. Once she was completely overtaken by pleasure, she cheated on her husband and even got pregnant with a baby she later aborted. Alma begins to lose control of her persona. The more time she spends with Elizabeth, the more she reveals who she is, and the more she reveals who she is, the harder it becomes to maintain this persona she worked so hard to build. We see the nurse who takes care of others, causing harm, the sweet and loving girl showing hatred, and, so as not to just summarize everything that happens, what we see from that point on is Alma's collapse. She starts to have a breakdown as she discovers her true nature, as her mask begins to fall. The ending has several scenes that really confuse us. We see Alma revealing secrets and stories from Elizabeth's life that she simply couldn't have known. She sits before Elizabeth and discusses her sins, feelings, and morals, and you just sit there wondering how she could know all that. It doesn't make sense. In the next scene, the answer appears as half of each face merges into one whole face. And then later on, we see some scenes repeat where their faces overlap. And you soon start to think, all right, they're just one person. That's it, I got the movie. But that explanation doesn't make much sense when you consider the rest of the story. While you're processing and forming theories, the movie ends without giving you answers. I sat, frustrated and anxious, staring at the credits after an intense hour and 20-minute movie, focusing on details and hoping to eventually find answers to the ongoing questions. I wanted to know the truth about the movie. Were they really two parts of the same person? Was all of that real? A delusion? Or even a movie within a movie? With an anxious, questioning mind, I arrived at Bergman's interview. He stood between the movie's two protagonists, tension in the air. The interviewer began with questions, and I quickly saw that even the actresses didn't have clear answers about the plot. They had their theories, but they didn't seem very confident about them. Until the big revelation came, the interviewer finally decides to ask Bergman if his intention was for these two women to represent two parts of a single person. And he seems to get a bit uncomfortable with the question. He replies that revealing what he meant when writing the script would be very stupid because that would limit the film to having only one correct interpretation.
So,
he comes up with a sentence that clarified everything for me. You will never understand a film like this. In fact, a film like this isn't even meant to be understood, but to be experienced emotionally. Right then, I got everything. I even understood what that upright eggplant was doing there. I realized Persona is a parody of life. Ingmar Bergman's film portrays how we react to life and makes us feel it. Think with me. You watch a contradictory, complex film with several strange, random, and inexplicable events. Naturally, you soon become desperate for an explanation, to find something that brings meaning to all this confusion. But there's nothing. And more than that, it's not even supposed to have one. There's even a strange scene at the end of the movie, which everything suggests is a dream, where Alma is back at the hospital and manages to get a word out of Elizabeth, and pay close attention to what she says.
Say what I say, there's nothing. Yours is a big deal. Yours is what's taking so long.
Nothing. That's how it should be. Could this be a clue for us to understand the movie? I even think Bergman kind of makes fun of us. The eggplant and the other confusing and random things he puts in the movie are there precisely to illustrate the randomness and the impossibility of us understanding life. But our desire to give meaning to everything doesn't allow us to see it that way. And that's why we keep killing ourselves trying to find an explanation for things that weren't meant to be explained. Ironically, it's exactly this desperate search to unravel the movie that keeps us from understanding it. In this eagerness to reach conclusions and answers, we end up moving away from what it really is. Have you ever heard that phrase that says, life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved? Well, that's exactly it. It's as if he's saying, the purpose of this movie, just like life, is to feel. If you keep trying to figure it out, you're just going to waste your time. What's even worse is the vulnerable position we've put ourselves in. I'm speaking for myself. If, after finishing the movie, I had searched YouTube for a theory video, my need for an explanation might have made me believe it. I'd use any theory to ease the anxiety of not understanding the movie, then just move on. But what would be the value of that? I would have ignored my feelings from the movie and missed the chance to explore and strengthen myself, just to accept someone else's interpretation. And without a doubt, that's the easiest and fastest way out. But what does that actually add to my life? I think you got the parallel. Well, but there are still some important things I owe you here. Like, for example, what's behind Elizabeth's silence? What made this blessed actress go silent? To answer that, I must consider the movie's central theme, the conflict between who we are and what we present to the world, or if you prefer, our identity. I think that Elizabeth, because she was an actress, had a clear sense that there were two versions of herself, the actress and the real person. To her, the actress was just a mask and her true self was the reality. But she realized these worlds overlapped, that we are doomed to live forever in these lapses between truth and mask, and that we are incapable of determining where the mask ends and where our face begins. She must have realized that acting can reveal more truth than real life, because acting can be a way to express something that exists within you. Playing a character can give us much more freedom to express ourselves than playing ourselves. And I think it was this confusion of roles, not knowing where her true self was, that made her snap. I view staying silent as rebellion, the realization that language is incapable of conveying who we are, and that therefore, simply by expressing ourselves, there's already a distortion of who we are. Elizabeth believed that staying silent was the only way to truly be herself and find her purity. The most tragic part is that even then she isn't free from the game. Silence is just another role, another mask. This is evident when Alma threatens to throw boiling water at Elizabeth, who then screams desperately for her life. There's even a phrase that became quite famous by Franz Kafka that says, "I was ashamed of myself when I realized that life was a masquerade party, and I went to it with my true face." This phrase may be beautiful and powerful, but I'm sorry, Franz Kafka. I really wanted to agree with you. But I believe we are incapable of showing our true face, because I don't believe the face is behind the mask. In practice, I believe it is so closely mixed with it that it's impossible for us to determine which is which. Look at Alma in the movie. At first it seems she's revealing herself, but it's not truly a revelation. She still tries to keep her role. She's always torn between the truth and her persona in this wild world I love. She really is. I'm not even going to bother with you, not even going to bother with you. Now, to conclude, the question that troubled Ingmar Bergman is, are Alma and Elizabeth actually two halves of the same person? For many people, the answer is yes. In fact, the actresses who play the main characters also think so. But, as I said before, any elaborate theory you bring to this film will have some inconsistency. Personally, I don't like to see them as just one person. I prefer to think that they became a mirror of each other. And this is where Bergman plays a brilliant trick on us. Alma believed she was studying, while Elizabeth aimed to understand her silence and wounds. After all, the official purpose of that trip was to heal the actress, who refused to speak. But when Alma intercepts a letter from Elizabeth, she finally realizes that all this time, she was the one being analyzed. The vow of silence made Elizabeth become a kind of mirror for Alma, forcing her to look at herself, while Elizabeth watched and analyzed, and that makes her feel outraged. Thirsting for revenge, she somehow manages to become a mirror for Elizabeth as well, and also reveals her dark secrets. This scene feels like a mirror, as if one reflects the other. The coolest part of this movie is the possible trick Bergman plays on us throughout, because persona seems to do to us exactly the same thing that Elisabetta did to Alma. We watch the movie expecting to analyze and unravel it, anticipating its meaning will emerge. Like Elisabetta, the movie reveals nothing and tells us nothing. And this silence made me raise the following question. What if, in fact, it's not us who are looking at the movie persona, but the movie persona that's looking at us? There are even some clues to this, like when Elisabetta approaches the camera and seems to take a picture of us. Could it be? Was that what it was all along? In the end, was this more about ourselves than anything else? Honestly, I don't know.